Hello and welcome to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I am your host, Piers Austin. Today I've got a very special guest who's going to be coming out shortly. She is the Heart of Shimmer champion. She is Samantha Heights, and I'm really excited to be sitting down and talking with her. We've been going back and forth a little bit trying to organise the time to do this, and today's the day that we're able to organise. But before I get into the interview, I just want to say a special thank you to some Facebook groups and pages that are allowing us to stream in their groups to make this interview all that much bigger. So I'd like to thank WCW Nation, Generational Wrestling Society, Wrestling Maniacs for allowing me to stream in their groups, and so we can get more eyes on this interview today. Also, this is being streamed in Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance on Facebook and on YouTube. This will be an interactive interview, so if you do have any questions that you'd like to ask Samantha, feel free to ask them in the comments, and we'll definitely make sure to get to them. Also, just wanted to make a special mention to our sponsors of the show. First off is Signal Studios, a recording studio here in Sydney. These guys do amazing work. They also master, edit music, whatever you guys need. These guys are able to take care of it. Also, Mayan Belts. So if you want a custom-made championship belt or a replica of your favorite championship belt, you need to contact Mayan Belts. Hit up Eddie Williams, and he'll make sure to take care of you. Also, A-Rock Design. So my good friend Ashley Rodriguez, her company, A-Rock Design, she makes customs cups, tumblers, hoodies, T-shirts, keychains, you name it. Ashley can make it, and she does amazing work, and it does a lot of wrestling theme, but also non-wrestling theme. So I've got 3 cups on the way that I'm waiting to get from Ashley. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm going to bring out Samantha Heights. Sam, thank you so much for joining me today. It's a pleasure to have you on.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
That's okay. That's okay. How's things going in your neck of the woods? You staying safe and social distanced?
Absolutely. I mean, things honestly haven't really changed that much for me. Pre-quarantine to now, I kind of spend every day just hanging out at my house right now anyway. So nothing's really changed.
So those of you that don't know, Samantha is flatmates with Dave Christ from Impact Wrestling. Dave was your wrestling trainer as well, I believe. He's had a hand in your career, and become one of your very close personal friends as well over the years. But how did you break into wrestling? Like, I know that you started around 2013. When did the training start for you? And did you start training with Dave straight off the bat, or were you training somewhere to learn the basics before you got to Dave?
Well, so my venture into wrestling is kind of different. I used to go to HWA shows, Heartland Wrestling Association, when I was younger, and I actually used to watch Dave wrestle when I was a kid. Him and I actually just last summer determined the first day that I actually ever saw him wrestle, but I can't remember it now. But so HWA used to do like fantasy camps and stuff, and one of my friends used to ring announce for them, and he was always trying to get me to do the fantasy camps and always trying to get me to start, but I was so involved in everything in school that I just didn't have time for it. So in 2011, my brother texted me and he said, "Hey, HWA is opening back up. I really think we need to go to a show." So we went and had a lot of fun. And then I said something on Facebook, of all things, about how great it was to have wrestling back in the area. And that same friend who I used to work with reached out to me and was like, "Hey, my brother still works at HWA. I bet you I can get you in the ring." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me. Heck yeah." Let's do it. Like, I got nothing to lose at this point. I was just going through a lot of family stuff, a lot of personal stuff. So I was like, you know what? Something's got to change. Let's do this. So I went and I trained with someone else for a couple of weeks. And then he had some issues come up of his own. So he had to kind of take a step back. But I had already met Dave at the shows. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know what happened. I'm not going to ask. But if you want, I train Thursday nights in Middletown. This is the address. Come check it out. If you like it, cool. If you don't, cool. Like, just, come see what you think." So that Thursday, I immediately, I drove to Middletown and I immediately got in the ring. I fell in love with training with him. everything about it, just the way that he treated us, the way he taught us, the way that he pushed us. So I was like, all right, cool. This is what's going to happen. So my first like 2 weeks of wrestling training was with someone else, but it was just like, basically bumps and stuff. And then after that, I jumped in the ring with Dave, and I never jumped out. It was, I don't know if you can see this, July 5th, 2011. That's the date that I took my very first bump in the ring.
That's a very unique tattoo to have. I don't think I've seen any other wrestler with with their tattoo of the day they took their first bump. But just going to the comments, my good friend Kevin Rodriguez says, "Hey Samantha, hope you're all are doing well. Thank you for doing this show." And Kevin's a good friend of mine. He does a similar show called The War Room every Thursday nights at 7 p.m. But obviously, taking that first bump, and it's like professional wrestling when you're starting out is learning how to fall, how to protect yourself. And without being able to do that, you can't go and do all the cool shit that you see on TV every week. But falling back and landing flat on your back is an unnatural thing to do. You know what I mean? Without sort of turning to do that. How did you find taking that first bump and putting yourself in an unnatural position of, obviously throwing yourself back first to the mat?
So the first couple bumps were a little rough. I'm not going to lie. I may or may not have banged my head a couple times on the mat, but I mean, that's to be expected,
Yeah.
But you're right. It's completely unnatural. And that's one of the first things that we always teach people at our school, at the OI4AK Academy, is that bumping is completely unnatural. It's not going to come easily at first. And I can say from experience, it was not fun learning. I had muscles in my body that were sore the next day that I didn't even know I had.
Did you find that obviously taking those bumps, was it what you expected, or was it more along the lines of, holy crap, I didn't know that it was going to like sting so much? Was it a shock to you, or was it more like, oh no, this is what I expect?
It honestly was a little bit of both. I mean, it wasn't quite what I expected in regards to like how much actually goes into a bump, but it hurt about as much as I expected. I mean, no matter how you cut it, no matter how safely you bump, it's still your body coming down on a mat with, barely any padding. So it's going to hurt no matter how safe you are with it, So I would say it definitely hurt about as much as I expected, but I didn't expect everything to be so, for lack of a better term, scientific. Learning how to place your feet, how to tuck your chin, how to, get your hands out so that you're absorbing the shock along your entire arm, putting your palms down so that you don't break, the bones in your hand, all that kind of stuff. That I did not expect. That definitely caught me off guard.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, and where, for me, myself, have a lot of respect for professional wrestlers, because what it comes down to is like to be able to learn how to do that and protect us, the little nuances, as you said, tucking the chin, arms out, having the flat, like someone who's not experienced, or someone who's say like an armchair, booker, so to speak. They can do this massive bump and blah, blah, blah. But it's those little things. And, in professional wrestling, the difference between taking a normal bump and someone ending up paralyzed for the rest of their life is very marginal. And, that's why, to get in and do a professional wrestling match, or to be a professional wrestler, the training that goes into it, is paramount to your career. I mean, if you're trained in a poor place with poor trainers, you're going to end up having either a very short career or, ending up paralyzed, or if not worse.
Absolutely. That's one of, honestly, the most important things. And that's something people always ask me is, what's your best piece of advice? And the best advice I can give is to find, a reputable school, someone who knows what they are doing and who can teach you the proper way to do everything so that you don't get hurt and so that you don't hurt anybody else.
Yeah. And so you started training in 2011. So you made your debut in 2013. Is that correct?
Yes. So it was about a year and a half apart.
Yeah, right. And how did you know you were ready to sort of go into matches? Were you sort of chomping at the bit, or and Dave was finally all right, we'll let you off your leash, or was it like that Dave and the rest of the trainers coming and saying, Samantha, oh god, can't even say your name probably. Sam, you're good to go.
Honestly, I was in a little bit of an awkward position when I first started training. I was the only girl in class. There weren't females coming in regularly to work. So I was kind of sitting around just continuously learning for a year and a half before I got that opportunity. My first match, actually, there was a man in Middletown, Ohio, it was about a half an hour away from Dayton where we train. He got a hold of Dave and said, "Hey, I got a girl. I need a girl. You got a girl. Let's make this match happen." And Dave was like, "All right, let's do it." So at that point, I had trained, let's see, it was July 5th until January 26th, 2013 was my first match. So just over a year and a half. But for part of that, we didn't have a place to train. HWA, the ownership switched hands. We had the building that we were wrestling in changed ownership as well. So we were kind of without a home for a little bit. There was a good chunk of that time that I didn't have anywhere to train. But luckily, I lived with Dave and I was still around wrestling all the time at that point. I was still going to other shows with him, getting in the ring where I could, when I could, still chain wrestling with him in our dining room, continuously learning still. But it was, that chunk of time that we just didn't have a home and there was no one for me to work until this day where he reached out and was like, "Hey, I need a girl. Let's do this." And so it kind of just fell into my lap. And at that point, Dave was like, "All right, it's been a year and a half, sink or swim. You got to go."
Yeah. And who was the first match against? Do you remember?
Yes, her name was Kayla. She had maybe 6 or 7 matches before that, so it was really the blind leading the blind. Yeah. Absolutely. But it was a good learning experience because her and I were kind of married to each other for the first couple of years of our careers, so we really got to know each other very well. In the ring, we worked very well together in the ring, and we had some pretty good matches together, I'd say, especially for it being that early. The first was not good. I mean, you're going to have a million crap matches before you have one decent match. So they weren't really that good looking back on them, but it felt good at the moment.
Yeah, and look, but that's the thing. It's like whenever you're starting something new, and it could be professional wrestling, it could be a new job somewhere, whatever it is, there's always going to be that grace period of learning. And, I've never heard a story of a professional wrestler going, "Yeah, my first match was amazing. Like, I should have retired, like, straight after that. Put me in the Hall of Fame, brother. Like, I am good to go." Like, no wrestler has ever turned around and said that. So, and professional wrestling, because there's so much that goes into it from a psychology standpoint, and from and also a physical standpoint as well, that I can imagine, like, you're 7 years into your career, and I can imagine that you're still learning at every show that you're going to, whether it be observing things from backstage or actually being in the ring with a more seasoned veteran than yourself.
Oh, absolutely. You never stop learning. And I mean, Dave will be the first to tell you there is something to learn from everyone, even if it's what not to do in a wrestling match. So you got to take that into consideration as well. But every match that I watch, I'm studying, I'm asking questions, I'm paying attention. And, especially having Dave right there, like every Wednesday night at Rockstar, Dave is right there. There'll be so many times where him and I will sit together and we'll watch the show and he'll say, "All right, tell me about this match." And I'll just, I'll pinpoint the little things in the match that are either, done very well or that need work or that should never be done again. So it's great having him there constantly still because he's done everything. He's been all around the world. He has done everything there is to do in professional wrestling. So he is a great mind to pick. But then, there's also the little things like teaching. Like he always says, you will understand wrestling better when you can break it down and teach it to someone. And that's absolutely true. He has allowed me to help train for the last couple of years at our school. And since I've started doing that, I can't even tell you the grasp that I have on wrestling. It's like there are so many different things that just clicked once you have to, point them out to other people. Once you have to show them, it's like, oh shit, yeah, I never noticed that before, but this is how this goes, or whatever it may be. But it's a constant learning experience, especially being out of the ring right now. I can't wrestle. I can't physically wrestle right now. So, I have to find other things to do. And, there's always character work, there's mic work, all of that. It really is always changing, always evolving, and you're always learning.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that you have to have that mindset if you want to be successful, especially in professional wrestling. But one of the things that seems to be pretty big right now, and probably big in the last probably 18 months to 2 years, is intergender wrestling. So women versus men, men versus women. What's your thoughts on intergender wrestling?
Personally, I love it. Okay, so I love it and I hate it. And I don't really hate it, but there are a lot of girls who kind of depend on men once they get into intergender wrestling. They either can't do a move themselves, they need someone to base for them, they need someone to pick them up and throw them, whatever. And that's all good and fine, because ultimately wrestling is entertainment, so as long as you're giving the crowd the entertainment that they deserve, that's fine. But I think that it's made some, I'm not going to say all, but it has made some female wrestlers lazy. I personally love it. There are so many things that I do in the ring with men that, I also do with women. My moveset doesn't really change that much. There will be the occasional move that I'm like, oh yeah, I can do this because I'm in the ring with Jeremiah. He can do this, so I can do that. Yeah, this is going to be great. But that doesn't happen every match. At Rockstar, I have been the only full-time female for many, many years now. So I have had more intergender matches, more intergender feuds there than I can count, than I can mention, So I love it because I have a lot of fun. And the dudes that I work with really push me to bring out my best, They push me to compete at a level that is above what I may get with, with some other women. So I love the fact that it allows me to expand on my craft. It allows me to hone certain skills and get even better. It lets me push myself. But I hate when it makes people lazy. I hate when
they become more dependent on the other party to really put everything together.
Exactly. And like I said, I'm not going to say all women do it, because they don't. But there have been a few that have absolutely kind of let that go to their head, and then they get in a match with other women and they're like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. Well, what can you do? You know? So I love it.
Me personally, I think intergender wrestling, if it's done right, it can be very entertaining.
Absolutely.
But when if you put in a woman who's say 5'3" going up against a guy who's 6'3", and she goes over clean with no, you know what I mean? Like either you're kind of destroying your male star and the reputation for having a big solid guy. But if you have her go over and there's certain little things at play, then you've got an entertaining match. But it's really got to have some common sense aspects to it. But in the same sense, you could have someone like to go back, but someone like China going up against someone like, say, Scotty 2 Hotty back in the day, that would be a realistic thing for China to beat him clean. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she was a lot bigger than him, but that's what I mean. It makes that much more sense.
Right. And there are definitely exceptions to every rule, like you said, something like that is definitely realistic. I myself, I am only 5'2". I weigh 115. So some of the men that I get in the ring with are much, much larger than me. And like you said, it's all doing it the right way. It's how you put together a match. It's, chopping a tree down before you do something to it, taking someone's legs out, hitting them in the right spot with that, that knockout blow. Because it doesn't matter who you are. If you get kicked in the head in the right spot, you're going out,
Yeah.
But it's also been, it's been thought of that we are real life superheroes. We are comic book characters in a ring. So anything could happen that one time, but for it to constantly be, I'm not going to get in the ring with, hell, even with Dave and I wrestled last year for the first time in a singles match, and I went over on him, but it was, at the end of that match was one thing after another. It was move after move after move that it took for me to finally bring him down and actually get that win. But if I was just going to hit him with one thing and then get that pin, well, who's going to believe that?
Exactly, and that's where obviously it comes down to the psychology of professional wrestling and putting it together in a way which it's like, look, professional wrestling is supposed to suspend disbelief, but when it's something so blatantly obvious and it's hard for the audience to then buy in, you know what I mean? Then you've got them questioning the product and they're questioning what you're doing. But, as you said, if it's done in the correct way and it's put together and the right pieces are in the right place at the right time, then it's going to be what it's supposed to be, and that's an entertaining match. And, you see a lot of, I think professional wrestling fans now, they get up in arms like, oh, my God, Tessa Blanchard's a world champion. Ah! Or Nyla Rose is the women's champion. That's not right. It's professional wrestling. Like, come on. It's not like, say, for example, I don't know, Ronda Rousey went and challenged Cain Velasquez for the UFC heavyweight championship. It's a professional wrestling match. Like, it doesn't matter what Nyla Rose was born, or doesn't matter like if Tessa Blanchard's a female and the Impact World. It doesn't matter. It's professional wrestling. If it's done right, it makes sense.
Not only that, but think about how long it took Tessa to get that title. I mean, she was built up and built up and built up. It's not just like she came out of nowhere one night and just won it. She went toe-to-toe with all the women's division. She won that knockouts title. She dropped that. She went toe-to-toe with the dudes how many times, and something like that. The right build to the story, the right build to the wrestler is what makes something like that work. I get it. But on the same token, she is a trained professional wrestler.
Agreed.
Any trained fighter stands a chance against any other trained fighter. Like I said, you never know what anything could happen that one time.
Yeah, that's 100%. And I think what they did with putting the title on Tessa is, I think she does amazing work in the ring. But for me, what really stood out to me was the fact that Sami Callihan, and I'm not trying to, blow smoke because of the relationship with Dave and Sami or whatever, but, for Sami Callihan to be obviously comfortable enough and say, no, I'll go and do the favors and I'll drop the title to Tessa. Like, how many men in professional wrestling would be like, yeah, I don't know about that one, Chief. But for him to do that speaks wonders about the character, that not the gimmick character, but the character of Sami as a person and the comfortability of him in his spot to be able to go and do that. And I don't think that him losing the title to Tessa hurt him at all.
No, I definitely don't think it did.
If anything, I think it probably increased his value, if anything.
Absolutely.
But,
it makes it obvious that he is willing to do, whatever it is he needs to do for the company and for wrestling. So I think that only reflects well on him,
Yeah, no, 100%. So we got a question from the audience, Tanari and Dancy. Sorry if I pronounce your name incorrectly. Tanarian asked, can you ask Samantha who her dream opponent or favorite wrestler of all time? So who would be your dream opponent, number one, and who is your favorite wrestler of all time?
Okay, so dream opponent, I'm gonna go with, I'm gonna say two people because one of them is no longer active. Sarah Del Rey. In my opinion, who am I? But in my opinion, one of the best female wrestlers, of all time. She is phenomenal. There's a reason that she's training in the WWE. She was trained by the best in the world himself, Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him. So that, she's probably top for me. But other than her someone who is still active, I
Any
think
promotion.
I think Asuka, but because I've loved her since before, when she was Kana, she was one of my favorites. The first time I saw one of her matches, I fell in love with her wrestling. I mean, she has just always been one of those people that has just been phenomenal all around in the ring. So she would definitely be one of my dream opponents. I'd say probably those two. My favorite wrestlers, people always ask me this, and they expect me to say like Lita or Trish Stratus, and I'm like, no, they're great. I'm not going to take anything away from them, but I love 3 men in professional wrestling outside of my trainers and Dave and all that.
Sure.
Sting. I have always loved Sting as much as as long as I can remember. He's been entertaining. He's a character. He's a great wrestler. Surfer Sting will always be my favorite, but I mean, if I had a black bat to carry to the ring in my trench coat, I would 99% of the time. So I'm going to say Sting. I love Billy Kidman. He has always been one of those guys that it's like, he's not a giant guy. He's cruiserweight. He's phenomenal. I mean,
are we talking Billy Kidman in WCW or Billy Kidman in WWE?
WCW.
Oh, okay, cool. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that one.
Oh yeah, WCW. I loved. Okay, and that goes along with my other one is Rey Mysterio Jr. Those two together. Whew, oh my God! When I was young, I was like, these are not big guys. These are not giants. They can do this. Oh my God, I can do this. Look at them go. I love it. They were just, to me, they were just, I can't say.
They were the same reason for me. Like I'm 5'6", so I'm not a big dude at all. And when I was like 16, 17 and seeing these guys wrestling, I was like showing my parents, like, because I was like saying to my parents, I'm going to be a pro wrestler one day. And my parents like, yeah, right. You're short little ass, can't even like step into the ring. And then I was like, no, look at these guys. They're small. They can do it. And blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh yeah, no, like my parents were like, no, you are not doing that.
They are what made me want to become a professional wrestler, like seeing some of the things that they did. And I mean, Billy Kidman and the very dangerous shooting star press that, but seeing that, I mean, even with that, I saw that and I was like, one of these days I want to do that. I mean, I went to, let's see, when I was in the 4th grade, maybe, I went to a Monday Nitro taping, and then we went to, when I was in the 6th or 7th grade, I went to a Sold Out pay-per-view, or pay-per-view rather, but they spelled it like Sold Out. It was like their Halloween one. It was like soul, like a human soul. And I dressed up like Billy Kidman for this pay-per-view. I remember I had the jorts. I had a little white wife beater on. It was great. God, I loved that. That was amazing. So he's always been one of my favorites, man. I tell you what, I love.
What do you think of Billy Kidman in the with Raven when he used to come out and do the junkie gimmick?
Oh my God. Okay. I can't with that. So I have very mixed feelings about that.
There's a fine line in professional. There's a fine line in professional wrestling, and I think, like, I remember watching that, and I was probably a little bit young at the time to understand what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just by about a year, but like once I started like going back and rewatching it as I was getting older, I'm like, oh God, they're portraying this guy to be a heroin junkie, and like this young kid with hair in his face, looking pale as fuck and just scratching. I'm just like,
exactly. When I was young, I loved it, and then looking back on it, I'm like, oh God, I don't know how to feel about this now. You know what I mean? Like,
I was a rock kid. You know what I mean? Like, I had long hair and stuff like that. So I was like the punk rocker, and Nirvana was still pretty big at that stage. So like that was that grunge sort of scene. That was kind of what, and like I just thought watching, I was like, man, this guy really needs to wash his hair. That's why he'll stop, itching and so. And I was a teenager saying that. I'm like, he needs to wash his hair.
Oh God. Yeah, that was. I see. I loved that because, like you, I grew up, on the rock and roll side of things. My mom loved like '80s hair metal. My dad loved, like Alice in Chains and shit like that. My brothers and sisters listened to a bunch of punk rock music and rap. So I had a little bit of everything, but I was definitely more along that rock and roll side of things. So growing up, I loved it, but now I'm like, man, I don't know about that. That's a close one.
Yeah, well, I think you get older and you get a little bit more knowledgeable about the world, and you sit there and but that's the thing. There's been so many things in professional wrestling, and as the times changed, like, could you imagine in 2020 a porn star gimmick coming out there and doing the "Hello, ladies,"
No.
or even like a Joel Gertner coming out and doing his sort of ECW intros and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, if he did that in today's day and age, the internet would lose their fucking mind.
Absolutely. I mean, the world is so PC nowadays that you can't do anything. You can't do anything. We have, all of these tapes and DVDs of like the ECW hardcore TV and like all of that, and going back and watching some of that, and even just watching like movies on Netflix. We were watching. What were we watching the other day? We were watching Stripes actually, and we were like, "There's no way that some of this stuff would be acceptable nowadays." I mean, now it's a classic, so it's fine. But it's like if someone would make that movie nowadays, oh no, oh no. So it's the same thing with wrestling and entertainment of everything. There are some things that were just, you look back on them and you're like, man, what were they thinking?
Well, I think as well as what was popular in pop culture at the time. I mean, you look at the fashion from 1984 compared to 2000. Well, actually, no. There's places in Sydney, Australia, where people still dress like it's 1984. So, but oh yeah, well, the 80s are making a comeback. So
they are here too. They are here too for sure.
Yes, but the thing is as well, like professional wrestling. And obviously the times that it goes through as well, like it really does focus on what's happening in pop culture moving forward at that particular time, and that's what they really drive through. And you can see that over the decades and generations of professional wrestling. But for someone like yourself, you're currently wrestling in Shimmer mainly, but also WSU and a few other places around. Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years going in the professional wrestling world? Where if you had an ideal path and I was the magic fairy and I said, Samantha, you make your destiny. Where do you want to go within 2 years? And I'll wave my magic wand. Where would be your ideal destinations to go?
Honestly, I don't necessarily know that it would be one place. I mean, one of my favorite things about wrestling is being able to travel the world and see all these different places and different things. So as long as I could do that and make a living off of wrestling, I think I would be happy no matter where I went. I mean, so before I went to Japan, I was going to a lot of the Impact shows with Dave, doing a lot of traveling. We went to Canada quite a few times, went to Nashville, a few other places, and had a lot of fun getting to do all of that. So I could definitely see myself in Impact, especially because of the fact that they do allow indie bookings. And, in fact, the fact that they don't stop you from traveling, they encourage it. That's somewhere that I would definitely be happy. With the WWE, if I could still travel, absolutely. AEW, absolutely. For me, it's not necessarily one company that I want to work for. I want to be able to do what I love. I want to be able to travel and see the world, and I want to be able to make a living while I'm doing it. That to me has been kind of the ultimate goal since day one, has been traveling as much as I can and just, paying for it via wrestling itself.
Yeah, and that's the main thing. I think anyone breaking into wrestling wants to be able to make that as their sole living and as their profession. But when you broke into professional wrestling, what were some of the main goals? Well, then obviously, your goals obviously change from year to year, and obviously once you hit those goals, you then sort of step them up. But when you broke into professional wrestling back in 2013, what were some of the main goals that you wanted to achieve in the business?
The main goals that I had were wrestling in Japan. Specifically, Korakuen Hall was my biggest goal in Japan, but Japan in general. Wrestling in the Arena Mexico, and wrestling somewhere for a TV company. Those were kind of the three end goals. I knew that they weren't going to happen overnight. Those were the three big ones, though. When I started wrestling, and we do this with, all of our training groups as well, they would always have us set 5 small goals, 5 medium goals, and 5 big goals, no matter how unrealistic they were. And what we do is we write them on Post-it notes, and we stick them everywhere, every single place that you can think of, so that they're the first thing you see when you wake up. They're the first thing that you see, when you go to brush your teeth. They're the first thing you see when you go to open the refrigerator door to get something out. So they're just constantly surrounding you, so you have no choice but to reach those goals. So when I first started wrestling, though, those were the big ones. My very first goal in wrestling, though, was just to have that first match, because without that match, I wasn't going to get anything. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't doing anything. So that was my first ultimate goal, was just having that first match. And then from there, it was, wrestling in 5 states, and then wrestling in 10 states, and then wrestling, being flown to a show, having that flight paid for, getting to spend, a solid amount of time somewhere and explore an area because of wrestling. Those were all of my goals. And then at the top of that list were Japan, Mexico, and somewhere on TV. So I've worked through a lot of them, and you're right. I set new goals for myself every year. Right now, my number one goal is just getting back into the ring, because that's kind of, not even before the quarantine and everything, before wrestling kind of came to a halt. That was a goal of mine, is just getting back into the ring and having that first match back. And then from there, I'll set new ones as I continue to achieve them.
How long's the injury? How long have you been out for?
So I tore my ACL on, so it was August 8th in Japan, but it was August 7th here in the States, because Japan is 13 hours ahead.
Yeah.
So depending on where you're at, depending on the day. So I tore it on, we'll say August 8th, because that was what it was in Japan. And then I had 2 more matches while I was in Japan before I came home. I had 1 tag match when I got back, but it was a 6-man tag match, and I didn't do much. I hit a couple moves, and that was about it. And I have not wrestled since then. So that was September, I think, was my last match. And I'm just now getting to the point where I can use my body correctly. I can actually finally walk normally. I actually just saw my surgeon yesterday, and I found out that in 3 months, I will be allowed to start jogging. I will not be allowed to jump yet. I won't be allowed to do any quick turns or cuts or anything. But in 3 months, I can start to jog again, and I'll get fitted for a custom brace then. And then hopefully 3 months after that, I'll be able to actually start practicing and having practice matches here in Dayton. And then hopefully 3 months after that, I'll be good to return to the ring. And that's their timeline. Obviously, I would prefer to be in the ring much sooner than that.
Sure.
But I mean, it's all just dependent on how I'm healing. Right now, yesterday, let's see, is today the 11th? So 2 days ago. 2 days ago was my 3-month mark after surgery. I had it January 9th. So where I'm at right now is actually ahead of schedule. So that's pretty cool. But the fact that it took me so long to have my surgery is kind of what's killed me, because that was an extra 5 months that I had to spend out of the ring. So
yeah. How did you this is your first major injury since starting in professional wrestling, and what does that do to you psychologically, but obviously 7 years investing into being a professional wrestler, and then 6-7 months out of the ring. Like, what does that do to you mentally? Like, as a you seem very well kept together from it all, and don't has it really affected you much?
I would say I have my good days and my bad days. I mean, there are times where I wake up and I'm just like, why the fuck did this happen to me? Like, what did I do? But then there are times where I'm like, all right, I'm getting it out of the way now. Happens to everyone at some point. If you're worth a damn, you get hurt at some point. So I'm getting it out of the way now so that down the line I'll be fine, But honestly, it hasn't been too bad on me. So I tore it while I was in Japan still. And that was a very scary moment for me because I had no idea what was going on. I was in a foreign country where, not a lot of people spoke much English. So that was a little bit scary, but the company I was with over there with Marvelous. Chigusa Nagayo is the senpai of Marvelous, and she was absolutely amazing. All of the girls there were phenomenal. Before I found out that I tore it, I was still getting in the ring and practicing with them and lifting. I just didn't do everything with them. If I couldn't do it comfortably, then I didn't do it. They didn't let me push myself to that extent. So that was nice because I still got that taste of being in the ring. And then when I found out it was torn, I was there for like another 10 or 11 days. I came home, went straight to the doctor, set surgery up. The thing that really messed with me with this, though, was how many times my surgery got pushed back. Because I got home August 30th from Japan. I saw Dr. Tim Krimchek on September 1st. I had my surgery scheduled for September 17th initially. And then my insurance, I was having some problems with that. So then it got pushed back to October 3rd. And they were still having some problems. So it got pushed back to October 31st. So I was like, okay, Halloween, I'm all right with that. Good to go. Like, that's got to be some kind of good omen.
Yeah.
And then the day before I was supposed to have surgery, I get a call from my, for lack of a better term, caseworker, through the doctor's office. And she was like, I'm really sorry to tell you this. Your insurance wouldn't approve it. Like, we are trying to push through a case for it. We're trying to get this going. You should find out within 2 weeks. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. And then I found out almost immediately that it got completely denied through my insurance because of my doctor. So Tim Krimchek was the orthopedic surgeon for the Cincinnati Reds.
Mm-hmm.
So he is absolutely one of the best in, at one point in time, he was top 5 in Major League Baseball, which was phenomenal. And I got that hookup because of one of Dave's friends, Jason Kindle, who is also just an amazing dude. So I got this great opportunity to have the best of the best work on my knee. And then it was just taken from me because his team, his network is not within my insurance network. Yeah. But he was going to do it at a hospital that was within my insurance. And they said, they've done that plenty of times, never had a problem with it. But for some reason, my insurance company would not approve it. So then I had to start all over and find a brand new surgeon and get everything going from scratch once again. So then I didn't end up having it until January 9th. And so that's really kind of what messed with me,
That would have been like that would have just absolutely done like most people's heads in, just the back and forth. But we actually have a very special guest, ECW original Angel Medina. He was the leader of the Baldies in ECW. He wants to know how you tore it.
I tore it practicing a move in Japan. Their rings are really different. And some people may know this, some people might not, but like their rings are a lot harder. The turnbuckles are all one piece. So I was going over this move in the Japanese ring just to get comfortable doing it. And it's a move that I've done a million times before. It's a knuckle lock cutter. So I have a knuckle lock with someone. I jump the ropes. I run the corner. I come down and I land in a cutter. Well, I was practicing it with one of the Japanese girls, and I was getting used to, their turnbuckles, their ropes, and everything. And then just ultimately taking that bump on their hard ass rings. And when I came down one time, I just jumped off the top rope down into the ring and my knee buckled in and everything just tore. Like it just was a complete, freak accident. It could have happened to anyone. It was just, I couldn't believe it had happened, trying to get used to a move in a ring that I had done a million times before. That's what was insane to me about it, is just that I had done it so many times. And then just that one time coming down off the top rope. And I literally just jumped down off the top rope. I had the knuckle lock. I went up the rope and I was standing on the top rope. I jumped down into the ring and my knee buckled in.
But that's always the case, it's always something that you've done a thousand times over or a million times over, and that's the one that's sort of always the stories that you hear. But Angel also wants to ask, like, did Japan, like, obviously you've said Japan didn't cover the cost of the surgery that was done by your insurance, but obviously if that had happened in a match over there, would they have been covering the cost, or was because it was in training, was it like saying, sorry, Samantha, you're on your own on this one?
Well, so they covered the cost of everything while I was over there, but they didn't cover the cost of the surgery itself. Luckily, my insurance that I have covered the cost completely. And they've actually checked up on me several times to make sure that I was okay, to see if I needed anything in regards to my surgery or anything like that. But I got very lucky in that my insurance itself covered everything, so I didn't have to mess with any of it with them. But they took care of everything while I was there. All of my hospital bills, they took care of the doctor's visits, they took care of the x-ray, they took care of the MRI and all of that while I was there. Marvelous and Nagayo-san paid for while I was there.
Oh, that's amazing. At least they sort of looked after you while you're away in, obviously, like you said, a foreign country. It would have been quite scary, especially being in a country where, you don't speak the language fluently like you would in an English-speaking country. But
right. And it was great because they took care of like getting my flight home rearranged and everything. They were absolutely phenomenal throughout the whole thing. I could not be more thankful to be over there for a company that, just really ultimately cares about their girls. They made sure that everything that I needed was taken care of.
Yeah, and you know what? That's another thing I wanted to ask as well, is how do you find the promotions now? And I think I said this when I was talking to Dave a few weeks ago, is professional wrestling. The one thing that, from a fan's perspective outside looking in, is that the professional wrestlers have actually now become more like professional athletes than what they have ever been before. Where it's, the conditioning, how they're interacting with media, in interviews, etc. You see that level of professionalism has increased tenfold than what it was, say, 20, 30 years ago. How do you find dealing with, wrestling promotions yourself, being obviously a female in the professional wrestling world, which for years has been a very male-dominated industry, and in recent years, we've seen, women really come to prominence. But once you broke into professional wrestling, how did you find it as a female, trying to get your name out there, trying to build and establish yourself on the independent circuit?
For me, it was difficult, but it was difficult just because I was a girl, because I wasn't well known. But it was easier for me than some because I had such great role models to look after and to kind of help guide me through everything. I mean, Dave and OI4K, they have built their own brand up so well that I had them to look at and say, okay, well, they're doing this, I can do this, to ask them questions and to have them just guide me through everything. Anytime that a promoter would reach out to me when I was first breaking in, I would immediately go to Dave and say, all right, Dave, what do you think about this? What do you know about him? Have you heard anything? You know, is this somewhere that, you know, that I am ready to be? Do you have, you know, any information on them? Is there anything I should be weary of or anything like that, you know? But for me, a lot of the promoters and promotions that I dealt with were by word of mouth referral. And that's how I got lucky enough with Japan as well, was that I knew of quite a few girls who had gone over there and worked for Marvelous, and they were looking for females. So they threw my name out there. And at that point, it was just, you know, reaching out to them, contacting them, and making, you know, that bridge, building that bridge of communication with them. And from there, you know, it was kind of easy, especially with Marvelous. They were phenomenal about it. But a lot of the companies that I've worked for are companies that I've gone to with other people. You know, I have been to shows to networks specifically, and I've kind of gotten, you know, I don't want to say lucky, but for lack of a better term, I got lucky because it was people, oh, you have a girl who wrestles? Okay, cool. You know, I'll keep her in mind for this. And then that bridge was already built so that when they needed someone in the future, they could contact me. Now, you know, there are lots of companies that I've worked for that that Dave hasn't worked for, that OF4K hasn't worked for, that any of them haven't. And that, I think, is mainly just because the companies that I was lucky enough to get into, I built a good relationship and a good rapport with them so that my name did get out there in the right ways, so that I did have a decent reputation with other companies. And then, you know, the girls themselves, people always ask me, okay, well, do you have a girl that you want to work? Is there anyone you want me to reach out to? And I think I got lucky enough, you know, not being an asshole to people, that it's like, you know, people wanted to work with me. So I would slide into positions like that, you know. But that's kind of the way that it's worked for me, has just been a lot of being in the right place at the right time, and having the right word of mouth, building those bridges like that, and then just not being a dick when people reach out to me.
Word of mouth is the best way for marketing, promotion, whatever it is, and especially when other people that are established are sort of vouching for you and bringing it in. And you know, professional wrestling is a relationship business. You know what I mean? You like, you know, if you are going to be a dick, you're going to be known for being a dick to deal with, and people don't want to do business with you. You know, one of the things that you know, I found interesting recently, I was seeing a documentary on females in professional wrestling, and they were interviewing this one professional wrestler who was a victim of domestic violence. Her partner was in the professional wrestling, or her then partner was a professional wrestler as well, became very jealous and obsessive. And she makes mention that, you know, when she started coming out about all this, a lot of other females in professional wrestling were saying, oh yeah, I went through that as well. And it was almost like that, you know, women in professional wrestling were all, I don't want to say women in professional wrestling were exposed, quite a large number of them were exposed to being victims of domestic violence. Is that something, have you seen anything personally yourself, like at shows where you've seen, like, you know, some of these women being treated badly, or do you think that that's pretty much ended, you know, in the last few years, and, you know, where we're at now is, you know, you don't see a lot of that, or is that still something that's still happening that you see?
I think it's something that probably still happens, I would say, but nowadays women are so much more comfortable with, you know, calling people out on their shit.
Yeah.
I think with the, you know, the way that women have been so empowered in the last few years in the entertainment industry in general, in wrestling with the women's revolution, in, you know, movies, everything, I think that women are a lot more comfortable speaking out. And I think that, not that dudes are being sneakier about it, but I think that there are a lot of men who have realized, okay, well, I can't do this to her. Maybe I'll go find someone else. And I mean, that's something, unfortunately, that I don't think will ever end. Just with, you know, human beings as a species. Honestly, we kind of suck sometimes. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say as a whole, but, you know, it does happen. But I think because so many women are so much more comfortable coming out and speaking out against people, I think that you're going to hear less and less of it, because I think people are going to realize that you're going to get called out, you're going to be exposed, and people are going to know. So people, I don't want to say people are scared to do it, but I think that people are definitely going to be more wary of it.
Yeah, and I think to deter from it from happening, it's, domestic violence, is a horrible thing, whether it be, in professional wrestling or not in professional wrestling. But, that's something that I really wanted to ask, is obviously you being a female in professional wrestling, but also wrestling for a lot of female only promotions. I don't know if you want to call it that, but obviously, and also being around quite a large number of other female professional wrestlers from around the world. But look, before we sort of start wrapping it up, Sam, I do want to sort of, we've talked about quite a few things here, and we've gotten a bit serious. So I would like to sort of start wrapping things up with a little game called Guess the Aussie Slang, or Guess the Aussie Saying. Okay, so have you ever been to Australia, Samantha?
I have not.
Okay, all right. So when you come to Australia, right, this is some stuff that's going to help you, to understand what the fuck that we say when you're here. So I'm going to say a saying or a slang word, and I'll put it in a sentence for you. So you have to try and guess what it is. Okay. So first one is, oh no, Dad's wearing his budgie smugglers again.
His budgie smugglers?
Yeah.
This is gonna sound weird, but I'm gonna say tidy whities, like, white dad underwear.
No, it's actually like a Speedo. So like a tight Speedo sort of goes. That's why they call it a budgie smuggler. Okay, so next one.
Oh, like a banana hammock. Oh, damn.
Yeah, like a banana hammock.
Okay.
Oh, after that feed, I'm chock-a-block.
I'm gonna say after that giant meal, after that buffet, I'm stuffed.
Yep. No worries. That's exactly me. Feeling full. Okay, so another one is, crikey, what a match.
Holy shit, what a match.
Pretty much. That's pretty much it. All right, so another one is, hey, Sam, when you leave my house, make sure that you haven't drank too much, because there's going to be a booze bus around the corner.
A booze bus. So, like a checkpoint, like a DUI checkpoint.
Yep. So where there'll be coppers pulling people over and randomly breath testing them. So, okay. So I tell you what, that bloke's a dead set bludger in the ring.
That guy is a heavy hitter in the ring.
No, so a bludger is like someone who's lazy, generally, relies on other people to sort of do their sort of stuff for them. So, all right, so I just need to go past the servo. Then when I'm done there, I'm going to go to the bottle-o. Then I'll be around your house for the Barbie.
Okay, so servo. Let me think here. Is that like a gas station or like a convenience store?
Yeah, it's a gas station. Like a petrol station. Yeah.
Okay. And what was the second one?
Bottle-o.
Bottle-o? Liquor store. Is it a liquor store?
Yep.
All right. And Barbie is barbecue.
That is correct. All right. So here's another one. Hey, grab us a drink from the esky.
The esky? Is that a cooler?
Yeah, like where you put ice and drinks and stuff like that. So,
okay.
Yeah. Oh, did you see what he posted on Facebook?
Facebook.
Yep, correct. All right, so let's go to another one. Fuck me dead.
Fuck me dead. I mean,
Hey, we're a family show as well, so you can't swear on this show, okay? Fuck's a shit of a word. No, I'm kidding. You can say whatever you want.
well, now you fucking tell me.
No, you can say whatever you want. So yeah,
Let's
fuck me
see.
dead.
Fuck me dead. I would say, well, I'm gonna guess it's something along the lines of, "Ah, son of a bitch," like like an exasperation.
Yeah, like almost like shock, like fuck me dead. Like, are you serious? All right, so we'll go off another one. I've been in here doing this podcast for a while now. My missus is out there and she's going off her fucking head.
Off her fucking head. Gone crazy.
Going off her head, yeah. Getting angry.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do another one. I tell you what, that's a bit of hard yakka right there.
Bit of hard yak. I've got no idea.
Okay, hard yakka, hard work.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I'm going to go one more. I'm just going to go get some Maccas through drive-through.
Mackers?
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to say macaroni and cheese, but that don't make any sense coming from a drive-through.
So you're going to kick yourself for this one. We call McDonald's Maccas. So I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go up to Maccas.
Well, fuck me dead.
Exactly. So Sam, before we finish up here, can you tell everyone where they can find you and where they can contact you?
Absolutely. You can find me on Facebook, Samantha Heights, and you can find me on the Twitter and on the Instagram, both at Samazing73. That's SAMAZING, the number 73.
That's awesome. So, Sam, before we when we end up, just hang back for a minute afterwards. But, guys, just wanted to thank Samantha for being on the show. She's been a great guest. She really got into the Aussie slang game as well. I just want to make special mention to our sponsors for the show, Signal Studios, A-Rock Designs, and Mayan Belts. Please go check out their Facebook pages and support these businesses as they're able to support us for doing this great show. But guys, make sure you tune in tomorrow at 9 p.m. USA Eastern, 11 a.m. Sydney Australian time, as I'm going to sit down with Leo Rush tomorrow. So I'm really excited for that. And I'm sure Sam's going to be viewing in on that one, maybe asking a few questions as well. But guys, thank you very much for watching the show today. Sam, thank you so much for being an amazing guest and giving up your time to come and join me today as well. So I appreciate it. No problem at all. Guys, have a wonderful evening, wonderful day. Take care and say hi to your mum for me.